Okay, good morning, New York, and good morning to Patricia Mazuera,
Good morning.
and good afternoon to Lorenza Morello and Paolo Furia here from Italy, from Turin, exactly. Where are you, Lorenza?
In Switzerland.
In Switzerland.
Yeah, hi everybody.
Lucky you.
Oh.
And you're lucky. We have finally Mr. Lindsay Johnson here. Lindsay, can you please headphones or something like that, because the sound is very bad. Okay. While Mr. Johnson arranged the things with the sound, I have the first question for all of you, because I want to grab the title of the New York Times, who said, elections turns into nail bites that may extend for days. And Mr. Trump said he won already. So I would like to know, what do you think about the whole story, which seems to be such a strange story?
Well, the bottom line is that nobody wins until they get to 270 electoral votes in America, and so there is a lot of waiting that we're going to have to do. There are a lot of ballots that were delayed by the Postal Service, and even the states that have been provisionally called for one candidate or another will have the opportunity to continue to count the ballots that are coming in, or anything that they haven't yet had a chance to post. So depending on how all of those go, it should settle down by the end of the week. I don't think it'll go into next week, but it's not exactly clear right now.
Lorenza?
Well, yeah, I agree. I think we have even less now, because Trump wants to the people and say what I want, and then Biden seems to do the same thing.
I have to stop you. I have to stop you, Lorenza, because there is a very bad return of the sound.
Yeah.
Mrs. Johnson, I really would like you to close the sound and use, please, your headphones or something like that, because there is a feedback.
Very bad return.
A bad return. We can't hear the other people. Can you please repeat, Lorenza?
Okay, sure. Well, I agree. I think this is going to be a long story, and we are going to wait for the final results, even though, in my opinion, if Trump or even Biden will win, I would not be surprised if they want to count the vote again, because they got a fight since the beginnings of this fight between one against the other, and they are so close that a mistake could be the most possible thing. So I think that we should wait for the results, but even the result wouldn't be the final one after a long time.
Yeah, the country is so divided that in an election so close, it's going to be difficult for one side or the other to accept it so quickly. And the Democratic Party was having a very difficult night, because they thought with all the protests, with all the momentum that they seem to have up to now, that it was going to be what was being called a blue wave, or like a landslide of Biden winning, and that did not happen. So there's a lot of disappointment on that side of the spectrum. In spite of that, also Trump is very strong about wanting to call it an election already, but he cannot do that. He must wait. He must wait until they count all the votes. hopefully by Friday. At this moment, we must reach 270. As Lindsay said, at this moment, Biden has 227 and Trump has 213. So it looks like Biden is ahead, but there are still very key states on the line. Pennsylvania, particularly, Michigan, Wisconsin are three states that we're kind of waiting and hoping that they get defined clearly before Friday, so we don't have to go through a recounting of votes or Supreme Court as Trump wants to push if he doesn't see that this is going in his favor.
I would like to know what Paolo Furia, which is the regional secretary of the Italian Democratic Party, thinks about the actual situation. It's in development, so we don't know exactly what is going to be on the next Friday, for example.
Yes, thank you, everybody. The secretary of Democratic Party in Piemonte, of course, so in the northern region of Italy. Okay? And well, I agree with all of you. Of course, we have to wait. We have to wait for the ballot, for the ballot emails that usually come to be analyzed later. And we are really in the face of a very open situation in important states in the blue belt, in the Rust Belt. So we know that we have to wait there. And well, I also would like to say that it is quite normal also in Italy to ask for a recount in situations in which there is a very short difference between the two who are candidates. For instance, in Italy, it happened in Piemonte, in the region where I am the secretary of Democratic Party. We had a medium-sized town close to Alessandria, Valenza, where Democrats have lost for 300 votes, but we had 100 challenged ballots. So we were tempted to ask for a recount because a mistake is always possible. What I want to underline to conclude is that one thing is the possibility that there are mistakes. Another thing is to claim for fraud. I think that this second thing is quite regrettable to say because it risks to disrupt the positive climate in which a democratic competition needs to be brought about.
A question for Mrs. Johnson. Can you hear me, madam? Mr. Trump said that we won everywhere and they are stealing our votes, which is a very heavy declaration. I think this can have strong consequences in the society as well. What do you think about it?
Can you hear me now? Sorry. I think that the main thing that we're facing at this stage is that he has been talking about the insecurity of the voting process for so long that it sowed a lot of doubt in people's minds. And that's why you saw a lot of people wanting to actually go to the polls, even though we're in the middle of a pandemic here. And in particularly some of the most crucial states, the pandemic is spiking like crazy. So I think that we're in a place right now where the professionals that run elections in every state are very committed to making sure that everybody's vote counts and that they count every vote. And because of the post office issues that have come up and how delayed the mail has been in many places, they will wait for a while and continue to count. But in addition, each state has their own election rules. So for example, in Pennsylvania, they could not start counting all the early ballots until election day. And traditionally, they have about 250,000 mail-in votes in a presidential race. And this year they had 2.5 million. So it was a factor of 10 in terms of the increase. So it was a very hard transition for them in the primary. But now in the general election, they have hired a lot of staff, and they have started at 9 a.m. that morning and have been just working long and hard, getting it all done. So I think we can trust the election officials, and I think the main thing at this stage is just keeping the patience to wait to get to 270.
Okay. What do you think, Lorenza, of the declaration? I think it's some sort of provoking, or it just believes in the statement.
Oh, well, I think both, you know.
Both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a kind of provoking and trusting and believing at the same time. So I think it's very interesting to study and to analyze the answer that the American people will give to this presidency, because just to make a little bit of story for the people who is listen to us, you know, I'm a business lawyer, so I used to analyze the fact and the numbers. So Trump got, since the start of his presidency, the best results ever on the three index, Standard & Poor's, Dow Jones, and NASDAQ, of the world leading stock market that have improved on average by more than 50%. It means the best ever for a president since 1928. So to me, if I would vote in America, and in this kind of situation that everybody have to face a new adventure or a new disaster called COVID, I think that the position that Trump got since the beginning and the strong economy that he brought on during these years is, if I would vote, I would not avoid to consider the fact of the economy. Because if you are the president of a state, the economy is one leading measure that you have to consider when you have to make the balance. So how was it as a president? To me, Biden, who is, of course, a kind of sweet and tender teddy bear, sleepy Joe, as Trump say, he would be a president not that strong in all sense. So in the positive way, and even, of course, in the negative way. And to me, the reason why they are so close in the final results is because they are facing the same situation, but one of them is already the president of United States. So the people can consider what he did during these years. And for Biden, you just have to imagine, of course, for everybody, when you challenge with somebody and you are the president in charge and the other one is not, of course, you are the one who can be measured for the good things and for the bad things. And the other one is just about fantasy, is just about declaration. And I think in the next hours, the vote who will come by post and by email would be the balance between the consideration of the last year of presidency and what Biden can make more than Trump did for the next year for the people who vote. So that's in my point of view, the real deal.
Patricia, do you agree with this?
No, I don't agree with
Yes, Mrs. Johnson, I'm coming with you after
I was
talk.
pretty sure.
Paolo Furia.
I was pretty sure.
I mean, yes, it's true that the stock market has been doing well, but at the expense of what? You know, at the expense of bringing back oil, carbon, at the expense of destroying the environment, at the expense of the working class. And we saw it in his personal life. He has not paid any taxes for the last 5 years. He paid 1 year $750. That is a lot less than a working would pay, or a teacher or a nurse. Less than 10% of a teacher or a nurse would pay taxes. So this philosophy of accumulating wealth for themselves at the expense of the country, of the environment, of the working class, of education. We have seen a pattern in which the people that he has chosen to lead are to be at the head of the various organizations and to be the secretaries of, like, education, EPA, having people who are not prepared, people who are yes men, to follow an agenda of pretty much defund the organization that they're supposed to lead, and divert those funds. So I think the social movement that we have seen since the death of George Floyd, we saw something very similar to what we saw in the 60s. We saw millions of people coming out in the streets, and the power of that fire, I think it's something that the Democratic Party was betting on. Indeed, the rallying of that was not as well as it should have. But we still have, Biden has not lost. He still can win. And there's still a very good chance when these votes come in. The hope is that most of these votes are going to be blue votes. It's a matter of whether are they going to allow these votes to be counted.
We have you, Madam Lindsay. You can talk. You can talk, and then we will listen to Paolo.
I was just going to say that one of the really important things that I think she was reflecting is that Trump has said all the way along that the stock market equals the economy, and it doesn't at all. One of the really good examples of this is when they put through the Trump tax cuts. It added $1.4 trillion to our deficit. And in that tax cut, there was a lot of benefit, and it was hyped as, this would give money back to these companies and they would be able to invest in new jobs. But the results of that tax cut is that the vast majority of those dollars that weren't paid in taxes were actually used to buy back stock, which helped drive up the stock markets, but it didn't provide jobs. It didn't increase the living wage. It didn't do a lot of things that were originally touted. The other thing that happened was the very lowest income people, if you had more than 2 kids, you were suddenly paying taxes when you hadn't paid them, many people ever. So it was a real hardship for the working poor in our country. But not, of course, for the real estate developers and for those corporations that succeeded in buying back a lot of stock and driving up their stock prices. So just wanted to make that distinction between the stock markets and the economy.
Thank you very much. Mr. Furia, what do you think of it?
Well, first of all, I'd like to make one thing clear about the question you made about the accusation Trump made on frauding vote to Democrats. The thing is that when you accuse someone of a crime, because frauding vote is a crime, it's not just a political thing, is a crime. When you accuse someone of committing a crime, you should have proofs, and if you don't have proofs, it is a crime in itself to make this accusation. It is called defamation. It usually happens also in Italy, and everybody have to be quite careful in put such kind of blames on the others. I suppose there is a part of the electors in Italy and in US as well that like those kind of provocations because they provide some idea of strength and of energy, but I wouldn't also underestimate that part of electorate which thinks that this is a sort of bullying. This is a sort of bullying, a way to bully the others. So it's always double-edged as a strategy to put strategy on tension like this. Okay, maybe on economy we can go back later. I'd like to say something on economy too.
There is a question arriving from a listener, because I used to do radio. I used to do radio for a long time. But he said, concerning the word Niccolò Carpanzano, which is an Italian viewer, concerning the world economic businesses, so not only US market, which the next president of the United States could be better between Mr. Biden and Mr. Trump, in your opinion? This is not my question, it's a viewer question, so if you would like to answer, I'd be grateful.
Could you say the question again? The sound
can you read it from your screen or not?
Oh yes, now I can, yes.
Excuse me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that's, I think the four of you can read the question. I can't listen to you, Mr. Furia.
Okay, maybe I can start, so we can change the, okay. Well, I think that for Europeans, it is not good that Trump keeps to be president, because there are higher prices for our products, especially, I don't know, for instance, we talk about Parmesan in Italy, okay, wine in France, but it is higher the price we have to pay in order to be bought in the American market. At the same time, we don't, the big multinationals that stay in US don't have the same limits and the same limitations in business with us. So of course it is not a big deal for Europeans that Donald Trump continues to stay there. I would like to discuss also the issue according to which, from an internal perspective, internal to US, economy is going greater thanks to Trump. I think that it must be acknowledged the important role of the Federal Reserve, which is a role quite similar to the one that in Europe it should be played, and only recently has started to be played by the European Central Bank. That is to make quantitative easing, so to buy some products on the financial market in order to pay less interests, okay? Which means to make an expansive monetary policy, which allows for investments and makes it easier to recover from a great crisis. I'd like to remember that Obama's period of presidency has been unfolded during one of the worst mondial crisis of economy in the world, and after a crisis like that, thanks also to the policies of Federal Reserve, it is possible to have a retrieval of economy, okay, on the global level. And of course Trump has had his luck, And of course, on the short term, his fiscal policy might have contributed, of course, in new investments from the part of multinationals. Now, I think that it has to be studied, and I'm concluding, it has to be studied a little more, the economic program of Biden, because many things have been said also in Italian programs yesterday that are not focused on the program, and a different fiscal reformation that helps middle class, and Green New Deal, which means a role of the public institution in producing green investments. I think these two things must be focused in order to discuss the economic program of the two candidates.
We have 6 minutes left, so I would like to give a word to the business lawyer, and then we will conclude afterwards.
Yes, I will be very short. I would say I would have never voted Trump the first time, but I would vote for him at this time. Just because, I mean, if I have to think about the economy and the stock markets, of course, I have to agree with analysis. But there is one biggest point, which is the COVID. And President Trump is one of the few people who is fighting against this big liar, which is called the COVID project. Because to me, the COVID, of course, the COVID exists. I'm not a so-called negationist or blah, 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 or the way they want to simplify. People who say there is this kind of problem, but this is not about the public health. The COVID program is kind of new reset of the economy and the social system. They want to change the rules of social systems and states and economy because they want to keep us at home and to be afraid of something. But this something, it's not the COVID which have to be afraid. So Trump, to me, seems to he got understood. Melania went to vote without mask. So they are facing the world and they are declaring this is a big fraud, taking from Jeff Bezos and the a very human Bill Gates and all the friends. And if you have to analyze the economy of this last month, the only big companies who grows in the economical system are those who are connected to Bezos. Is Amazon, the best results ever, or Facebook, or the bank system. So if Trump wins, we have one man, a strong man, who can face the big liar. And this is the reason why I would prefer Trump to be president again. And I think I would not have the same opinion if we were not facing this kind of problem. But you have to vote in the time that you have to live in, and this is the time.
Mr. Mazuera, Mrs. Mazuera, I'm confused about Mrs. and Mr. and I would play lots of jokes about it, but this is not the right place.
No, I think the threat of a global pandemic is very real. I think the countries who have used precautions to even to an extreme, like China, Australia, New Zealand, they have seen better results. And they are opening their economies. I mean, I have family in China, and the economy is almost back to normal because people at the beginning wore their mask, isolated, provided their information for contact tracing. I think this is a very real disease, and that we have to take it seriously. And we have not. This administration has not managed the COVID problem They have denied it. They have they have ignored it, and the result is that our economy lost, and also the loss of life. The United States has the highest number of deaths in the world, even higher than China and Russia. And
you have to divide the death with COVID or because of COVID. There is no clearly. Nothing is clear about how they count out the numbers. They don't show us the death. They don't tell us if they just were dead because of the COVID or with the COVID in addition. So this is the reason why.
We don't have a lot of time, just 2 minutes, because someone of them has to go to do a lesson at the university. So I would like to close, but if you feel like it, it would be marvelous to meet again on Friday. Maybe we will have a final result. And if the four of you have time to spend on another broadcast for staying time, American or Italian time, would be grateful. So if you agree, we can close with Mrs. Johnson right now and have another appointment Friday 6th at 2:30 p.m. in Italy and 8:30 a.m. East Coast time. You can close, Madam, and then we say hello to each other, and we keep fighting the next Friday.
Okay, thank you. I think that that the perspective of wanting to be able to function within COVID is really important. But we have so many hospitals right now. The hospital right near me, I live in Ohio, and the hospital right near me is on diversion and has been for a week because they're totally full of COVID patients. So I think you need to be a little careful about saying that we need to just go on with our lives. We know that masks make a huge difference. And what we need in this stage is a level of leadership that Trump has already shown us he's not willing to provide. So it's a very sad time in America to watch this much death. I have a number of friends who've lost young family members, 45 years old, 35 years old. So this is not even just an older person's disease. But think very carefully about the implications in rural areas in particular who do not have the capacity to manage this. So thank you very much for your time. And I've enjoyed this morning.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for coming. I just would like to say a little thing. Lorenza Morello is not denying the COVID itself. She's against the way they communicate us, how the pandemic is working, how the information is given to all of us. Because I know Lorenza Morello very well. I don't want to defend her because she's perfectly able to defend herself in case she needed. But I would like to clear this point because she was not denying the pandemic. She was talking about a communication on it.
Yeah, they are manipulating the numbers.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course, I don't deny it.
In some way, this is the point of view I wanted to stress. If you have time for the next Friday, we can communicate privately, and we shall have probably the final discussion on the topic. Hopefully, we will have the president we dream about.
Let's hope we have results by then, and that's
each of us. Thank you very much. Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much. See
Thank
you.
Lorenza. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Furia. Thank you all. It's been a pleasure.